I grew up being taught to be nice. Just like that. To be good, to be selfless, to think about other people first, and I was also taught the difference between right and wrong, and between good and bad. And with all of that, I was also taught to be accountable. Now I see by some of the nods that you all got taught the same lesson. And being accountable, of course, meant being able to be counted on by the people who wanted to be able to count on us. Right? Yes. So our definition of good or bad was their definition. Right or wrong, their definition. And I'm going to say that that was okay when I was 3, 4, 5, maybe even when I was 7, 8, and 9. But it got to be a little strange in following the line between good and bad and staying on the good side, when as I got older, I was left to do some things on my own, and I had to choose between good and good. Such as when I would come home from school, both of my parents worked, and what was good was to do my homework. What was also good was to do my chores. And they had to be done before dinner. Right? Yes. And I come home with a lot of homework, and I can tell I'm not going to be able to finish my chores and finish my homework all before dinner. What do I do in order to be good? It meant I had to call my parents and ask them, what should I do? Should I do my homework or should I do my chores? And they would tell me what I should do. So then I started getting trained in going to other people to should on me. And I became a master at it. For example, when I started to work out in the corporate world, I had bosses. My bosses had their own ideas of what I should be doing during the hours that they were paying me for, and I understood that. I was fine with that. I was absolutely fine with that, because I was good. Wanted to be the best employee ever. And I had my hours of working. Well, during those hours of working, I would do as much as I could, but when those hours were over, I would make plans. So I might make plans to be with a friend for dinner. Or I might get in a doctor's appointment to take care of myself so that I could continue to work. And then my boss would come to me perhaps at 3 in the afternoon and give me a project that had to be done by the next day. All right, now what do? I know I can't get it done before the time I'm supposed to go to dinner. So do I be the good employee or do I be the good friend? How do I do it? Both. Or if it's a doctor's appointment, do I do good by me or do I do good by the company? I didn't know. So that's when I started calling my friends, because I wanted to know what they thought I should do, right? Because they're objective. And they would listen to me, go this and that, and then they would tell me exactly what I should do, and that would be what I would do, and I would feel good about doing the right thing, the good thing. And it worked out perfectly, because then they would reciprocate. They would call me when they weren't sure what they should do in a situation. And so we had the symbiotic relationship. You should on me, I'll should on you, and we'll all be happy together, being good. And that worked out perfectly for many, many years. But 8 years ago, I got out of bed, or I attempted to get out of bed to be good, do good in the world, and I couldn't lift my head off my bed, let alone the rest of my body. So let me explain to you how I got there. A number of years before that, I wrote a book, and it became an instant bestseller. Not here to brag about it, believe me, because when I explain to you what happened, you'll understand it was a transformative moment for me. It was the perfect thing to happen, but not for the reasons I was looking forward to it happening. Being good, it meant that when people contacted me, and every day I had hundreds of emails, readers telling me the book had made a difference in their lives, radio and TV shows wanting to interview me, corporations wanting to book me to speak. It was fabulous for a while. I felt, being the good author, that it was important for me to respond to every one of them as quickly as possible. I wrote the book, I asked for it, I should be able to handle it. With that, I started noticing that I didn't get any extra hours in the day to go along with the extra work. So that meant I had to start cutting back. It meant that breakfasts were usually a banana, if I was lucky, usually really a donut, eaten while I was on the phone handling a business call. Lunches were handled very much the same way. And then dinner, don't even talk to me about dinner. Dinner was usually some sort of networking event, getting a few bites of food in between networking and connecting. And eventually, I didn't even really see my husband because he was supposed to understand that this is what I was supposed to be doing for this time for us. And emails, I'm going to tell you exactly the best time for me to do emails back then was between midnight and 4 a.m. because the phones didn't ring at that time. So I could actually think while I was writing. I'm sure no one in here has ever had that experience, but I did. And I was able to sustain that for about 2 years, until that day, 8 years ago, when I went to get out of bed to do it all over again for the day, and my body said, "No way, Stacey, not going to happen." I had to go to the doctor. That was what I had to do. There was no choice about it in that position. But I have to tell you, I was feeling like I should be returning phone calls and I should be responding to my emails, that I had to go to the doctor if I was even going to be able to do those at all. And the doctor explained to me that I was completely debilitated, depleted, adrenal failure, high blood pressure, and the only way that I would recover was if I took to bed and I got proper nutrition and I rested. And I said, "Well, for how long? A week?" He said, "Oh no, Stacey, we don't know how long. Maybe never. This may be what your life is going to be like from here." And I went to bed, and I was mad. Okay? I had been good all the time. Everything I ever did was to be of service, to be good the way I was supposed to be, the way I should be. So how did this happen? And I stayed mad for 2 years, and it wasn't helping very much. So here's what happened. I changed my thinking. I started asking, how do I get myself out of bed? And I asked it for a number of days, and then finally, 3 months into the third year, I got an answer. On a very brilliant day, I got an answer. And I heard, "Stop shitting on yourself. That's how you got here. You get to change it by stopping it." I said, "All right." I started asking some more questions of myself. So if you were able to get out of bed, what would you like to do with the rest of your life? And I made some goals for myself. And I decided that it wasn't about shooting to do those goals, they were just goals I intended to do. And that I was going to emancipate myself from everybody else's shoulds. I would never again ask anyone else what I should do. And I came up with a 4-step series of questions to ask myself to know what I wanted to do in every moment. And since friends don't let friends should on themselves, I'm going to share the process with you. All right. Question number 1, I asked myself, and I'm going to give you a scenario that actually happened to me. But for you, as you think about choices that you may be facing in your life right now, it could be as simple as, do I have the iced tea or the lemonade at lunch today? Or, like I had to, do I attend my aunt's funeral when I'm really supposed to stay in bed? And her funeral was in another state, and it would have taken quite a bit for me to get there. So the first question I asked myself was, coming from fear, why would I choose not to go to the funeral? Why would I choose not to go? So for you, it could be, coming from fear, why would I choose not to drink the iced tea? And the answers that I came up with were, Coming from fear would be I'd be afraid that I'd get sicker and it would delay me from my goals. Okay, that's a legitimate reason, Stacey. The next question, coming from love, why would I choose not to go to the funeral? Well, coming from love, again, it may be fear about getting sicker, but loving myself enough to stay there and take care of myself and do what's going to get me closer to my goals. So then I flipped it. Coming from fear, why would I go to the funeral? And the answer I came up with was I was afraid my family would think I didn't love my aunt, that they wouldn't understand, that I would come across as being selfish. And then coming from love, why would I go to the funeral? And I said, because I'd like to be there to honor her. I loved her, and it would be great to see the family. So those were the answers. I looked at them, and then I thought to myself, in relationship to the goals I set for myself, which one of those answers was going to get me closer to it, and which of the answers were going to move me further away? And what I decided to do was stay home and call my cousin. And I called him, and I explained the situation, and you know what he said? Very first thing, even before the words out of my mouth, Stacey, you need to stay in bed. That's what she would have wanted you to do. We all know you love her. She knows you love her, and she's not even going to be at her own funeral, so you might as well stay home. So I invite you in your own lives and in your own way of moving forward towards what you intend to do, because I know everyone here is about making a difference. Let's do it from a place of what moves us further forward rather than what takes us further away. Remembering those 4 questions. Coming from fear, why would I choose to not do? Coming from love, why would I choose to not do? Coming from fear, why would I choose to do it? Coming from love, why would I choose to do it? And as you consider those 4 questions, ask yourself, which one feels most true to me? Which one's going to move me closer? Because the path of shoulds, I found out, leads to a dead end. And the path of choice leads to dream fulfillment. So I'm going to ask you, will you all join me in living a should-free life?